Hey there, Adrienne Elise here. Welcome to the Gaia Daily for November 5th through 8th, 2021. How are you doing? We're just coming out of this very powerful yesterday's new moon in Scorpio. The new moon in Scorpio happened exactly opposite of Uranus and Taurus, giving us very powerful messages. Now, today, Mercury moves into Scorpio. Mars has already moved into Scorpio. So we're having a bloom of this energy. Mercury moving into Scorpio means that the retrograde cycle, Mercury's retrograde cycle, is now complete. And so this new moon is a new start of the next chapter, of the next phase, of the new age, perhaps. Are you feeling the shift? We're having a bloom of the darkest dark and the lightest light. So let's talk this through. It's pretty profound, the astrology, when things line up exactly. And what happened on this new moon at 12 degrees 40 minutes of Scorpio, exactly opposite Uranus at 12 degrees Taurus. And so this is saying that, what are we doing here? What is this new start? The new moon is always a new start into a new cycle, a new month, but in this case, a whole new reality, perhaps. And so when it's exact like this, it's a very important message for us. And 12 is 1 and 2 make 3. So we've got like a 1, 2, 3, and then 12 degrees, 40 minutes, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're having a count up, a count down, an acceleration of energy. And that's exactly the energy of this last week as Mercury came out of that retrograde shadow. We also have Jupiter now has moved is moving right now to 23 degrees. Jupiter turned direct at 22 degrees. And so moving to 23 degrees means Jupiter, our big moving planet, big expansive energy, is moving forward again. It takes a little bit of time for Jupiter to get back rolling, and then once it moves, it's got quite a bit of momentum, being that big, expansive amplification energy. In these last decan of Aquarius, expanding into the Aquarian age, it will make its third and final pass over that Aquarius-Pisces cusp, the shift of ages, in December, and quite a culmination of astrology around that solstice period of time. So here we are. It's time to move forward, and there's this energy of like a slingshot. We've been held back for so long. In fact, we have a 2-year marker here from when this whole nightmare situation, health tyranny, started about 2 years ago. It's almost like we were picked up out of our timelines, and everything that we thought we were doing and the direction we were heading and the plans we were making got thwarted. That's an interesting energy because that's how supernova souls feel generally throughout their lifetimes in this earth evolution. Like you're here, you're rolling, you're going forward in your mission and your purpose, and then boom, they come for you. So really interesting, because now where you thought that direction and that feeling of being able to navigate your life is starting to come back. But we won't really feel clarity in that, I don't think, until the new year, because we still have the nodes in mutable signs. So the North Node in Gemini, South Node in Sagittarius finishing up, and will be completing their time, the nodes, their time in those signs also at the end of the year. We also have the third and final Saturn square Uranus that we started feeling in January. So the 2021 astrology has been intense, one square after another, and we're just coming off of this intense week of a culmination of the most intense astrology, a bloom of the Piscean age. And this last couple of months with the Mercury retrograde and so many squares and oppositions happening, this feeling of, it's almost like it's that bloom of the Piscean age, and that feeling for supernova souls of being, here on such a powerful destiny and mission in this Earth evolution, and yet not being able to complete that destiny. So, what has happened because of these stories throughout Earth evolution for supernova souls, and particularly the Piscean age, where we were those of the light, standing in the light, healers, these advanced souls being specifically targeted in the Piscean age. Now, when we come to the end of a sign and a shift between signs in the zodiac, there's an interesting feeling of kind of like when you look at the cusp, your logic would say the cusp of the sign would be, well, say you're born on the cusp of a sign and be like, well, I'm a little of this and a little of that, but it doesn't actually work that way. Each sign has a very different energy. It goes male, female, and different elemental energies of each sign. And so there's actually a very clear line at some point where the energy shifts into the other sign. So here we're looking at this in this shift of ages. And so at the end of a sign, you'll get a bloom of the energy, like a completion, trying to complete the energy. And then at the beginning of the next sign, you'll get a bloom of an excitement of like moving into that energy. Now, the shift of ages moves backwards, the zodiac. It's the background of our zodiac. And so the shift of ages going from Pisces to Aquarius, but we're still going to have that same bloom of energies, a bloom of the Piscean age. And then that's kind of exciting to think of a bloom into the Aquarian age. And the reason why it's so intense right now is because we are choosing the highest timeline and the golden age, the new renaissance that this Aquarian age dictates. So at some point that flip happens, and it's kind of like a 90-degree turn. So it makes sense actually that we're in that period of time. And astrology is speaking to this with Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius this year, having had that greater conjunction in December of last year. And now Jupiter finishing up his time in Aquarius for that third and final pass over this shift of ages point in December. But since we're having a bloom of the Piscean age, we're revisiting all of these issues. And for supernova souls, it really has to do with this energy that's coming up around the South Node, finishing up again. So the nodes of the moon also move backwards. So the nodes of the moon, the North Node in Gemini, South Node in Sagittarius are at 1 degree. And so finishing up at the end of the year as well. And so a bloom and an intense energy for the South Node in Sagittarius. The North Node is how are we going to get to where we're going and what is the future steps and direction. The South Node is what's holding us back from the past, typically karmic contractual arrangements and programming. In this case, it's about this feeling for supernova souls coming. It's important to understand that supernova souls, the definition of supernova souls, is that you've had previous experience before coming into this Earth evolution. Now we're getting some clarity around this, that specifically that means you came in as a full initiate soul and that you've already experienced spiritual ascension. You've already experienced light body. This memory might be deeply hidden in your consciousness, but that doesn't mean it's not there. So this is a very powerful time for supernova souls, and you don't want to miss a minute of this astrology through the end of the year, because now is your time to shine and fly. So that South Node at 1 degree Sag is so intense. Now the moon is going to be moving over into Sagittarius later today, moving into tomorrow. And so kind of going over that point, really highlighting this energy. And the Sagittarius energy is the quest and the vision and the hero's journey and that spiritual destiny. The galactic center is found in the sign of Sagittarius. And so for supernova souls, we're really facing where we feel like we've gotten off of our path and purpose. and that there's inherently this very programmed, it doesn't fit at all. It's completely misplaced, but it's important to talk about it so that we can bring it into the light to heal it. In fact, that's what Scorpio season is all about, being brave enough to face the darkest dark. And that's kind of a definition of who you are, supernova soul. You came here to go into the deepest catacombs of Earth experience so that you could come back into the light and lead the way for humanity. And it has not been easy. But understanding that as a supernova soul, what you've had to go through in order to be here on the planet at this time, the process of squeezing your big expanded self into this lower dimensional frequency, painful. And then the targeting and attack continually on the light, and you did not give up. And you came back again, and you stood strong, and you stood tall, and you said, you could take my life, but you cannot take my soul. And your soul light only stronger. Now, it only makes sense that these souls that are advanced, have had prior experiences, here to lead the way on ascension, would be targeted at this time in this bloom, this divergent timelines. So I want to just speak to that and validate that that is really happening. But it actually validates who you are as a soul, that you're on the front lines. Those that are fully succumbed to the matrix and watching the tell lie vision and getting the jab and going along with the program, they're not a threat to the system. So they're just kind of floating along, right? And this has always been a difficult thing for supernova souls. It's like, why is my life so difficult? And the people around me are just kind of cruising along. Why do the people who seem to be the most asleep or the most evil have all the money and all the good things? It doesn't make sense. It's like it a lot has to do with the planet Saturn, and Saturn represents the original plan, God's plan, and then how that was absconded by the forces of control all the way back in Atlantean time. And so we are wrestling back our divine timeline right now, and we've already won. But there's still some things that need to play out. And as you cut off one head of that monster, it writhes and protests and can cause a lot of damage. And that's just, it's really important to kind of step back and get that bigger picture of where we're at in this process. So that 1 degree Sagittarius is bringing up, South Node is bringing up, it's like a bloom, because we're about to enter, complete this energy at the end of the year. So we got to get this piece. And so supernova souls, inevitably, across the board, I find that they have programming around low self-worth and shame that doesn't fit who we are at all. It's like we've taken on the karma and the darkness of the control energies, blamed ourselves for all that's gone wrong on this earth. But has it gone wrong? Or are we about to turn the corner into the most glorious experience beyond what we can imagine? But this feeling, it feels like the low self-worth and the lack of deserving love that is in the supernova soul. Which it doesn't fit, because you are so abundant in love. You are love. But why can't we receive our own love? We're so good at giving and taking care of others. And this is what this time is all about. This is what this astrology is speaking to. This is, if you're on the front line and we're here to lead the way, then this has got to be adjusted. And it's time for the weak to be made strong. And those supernova souls that have been hiding in the shadows, feeling all beat up, to step to the foreground, to step on that stage. Supernova souls have a quality that I call reluctant leaders. We've been a leader in past lives, and it didn't go well because the powers of control typically manipulated your situation, and then you took the blame again for the harm that was caused. And we've got to right these wrongs. This is the turning of the tide and the turning of the table, and we've been waiting and waiting for the world to change, and waiting for truth to come out. But what needs to be made right in here? And this is exactly what this astrology is speaking to right now. And it's interesting because supernova souls have a tendency to be like, have that low self-worth, and then feel beaten up and feel like they trusted the wrong people and they were naive, and then they beat themselves up for trusting the wrong people. And it's just like layers and layers of shame upon shame, like I said, that just absolutely doesn't fit who you are. But if we go really deep into this, like this is what Scorpio wants to do. So now Mercury today moving over into Scorpio, Mars moved over at the very beginning of November, earlier this week. And so we're in this place of having bravery, the warrior, to go into the deepest, darkest depths, which actually is very much fits the supernova soul story throughout this whole evolution. You could never be there for people in the way that you want to as we move into this next chapter. You could never have real and true compassion if you didn't go to the darkest depths of this human experience. That was the story, the metaphor, Yeshua going to the wilderness and having to go face to face, facing the doubt, facing Satan, facing all of this lack of worthiness for the light within him. You know, Jesus was the perfect, beautiful embodiment of Christ consciousness, showing us what's possible for all of us. And yet he was a man, a human that went fully through the human experience over lifetimes. So when we go to this place, like, where did this low self-worth come from? What is the origin? Like, can we get to the depths? Can we understand this? And it really feels connected to this North South Node Sagittarius energy, where you feel that you failed in your mission and purpose. And here you came in with all of this energy, all this devotion, and like I said, the what you had to go through to get here to incarnate, and then what you had to go through to remain alive. And that you're still here and still showing up and you're still living and you're still breathing. And huge messages around what supernova souls have done they have no idea, but the role that you've played in holding the light on this planet. Where would we be without you? And yet we generally feel like dog shit, you know? And it's like, okay, what's going on here? And so this is the wrong that needs to be righted within us right now. And so it feels like there's this connection also to a public death, maybe being persecuted, targeted, where the healer, the light, was called the darkness, called the devil, called the heretic. And this created a dynamic on a soul level where the supernova souls feel like they failed in their mission, they failed God, and they don't deserve to even exist, don't deserve to be back on their mission, don't deserve the abundant love that's right there inside of them. See, this is the thing. An advanced soul, the more and more soul experience through lifetimes and evolutions, becomes more sensitive, more empathic, more emotional. This is the wealth. This is the abundance. And you've got it. We just got tricked into thinking that we didn't. Maybe so that we would give away our power to that control matrix. And now it's time to take it back through this healing of this distortion. So it feels like this low self-worth programming is connected to this feeling of failing on your mission and your purpose. And so this combination of astrology is so profound for us right now, because that new moon, exactly opposite of Uranus and Taurus. Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. It speaks to higher vibrational frequency. It speaks to a vision of the future. It speaks to higher technology, past technology from ancient wisdom and future technology. It's a higher vibrational frequency that has a disruptive energy, like a lightning bolt. And it's not disruptive just to be disruptive. It's disruptive to the patterns that no longer fit, right? And this is exactly where we are in our world. It's like, okay, we can feel these energetic changes. We can feel, that this truth coming through, that all of these ascended masters have taken a body to be on earth at this time, and how lucky we are to be here for this transition. But then also this feeling of the burden and the heaviness of these divergent timelines and this misplaced low self-worth. So this new moon in Scorpio going to the depths, shining the light on the darkest dark, across from Uranus and Taurus. So this disruptive vibrational frequency in Taurus represents wealth. Well, in traditional astrology, we'd call that money. But this is exactly Uranus is a revolutionary planet. So we're in a revolution of wealth because that paper money and all those numbers in your bank account and all your physical y- buildup of items, of material items, you can't take that shit with you. There's actually no wealth to it at all. And supernova souls have been feeling it's been hard because to be able to find it's this feeling of going through so much to be here and then not being received here on the earth. And you have so much abundance, but nobody wants it. It's like, oh, you went through all this to be here and then coming and then this feeling of like, what are you doing here? We don't want your light because it's shining on our darkness and it's revealing our corruption. And so we're going to call you the corruption. Classic narcissist agenda, projection, right? So they blame you for what they've done. And did we go ahead and take the blame as sensitive souls? Did we go ahead and take on this whole garbage of karma that's not ours? I mean, when it comes to emotional energies and karmic contracts, you can work all day on things that are not your own, and you'll never get anywhere. Maybe work a whole evolution on trying to clear this darkness. But if it's not your karma, then you're never going to be able to lift it. But now is the time to get clear and to get clean on this and to drop this programmed shame. And so the new moon in Scorpio, shining the light on the darkest dark with the sun and the moon together, and Uranus exactly opposite across the way with this 1, 2, 3, come on, let's go. Mercury retrograde cycle's over. We've got a 2-year cycle completing. We've got a 20-year cycle completing, a 200-year cycle, 2,000-year cycle completing. And how do we get on with it? We've got to have this revolution of wealth. And if you're here to lead the way, supernova soul, and you are laden with these abundant spiritual, this love, this intuitive knowing, this is the wealth of our universe. And so, but how do we receive it? So it's really important to, so what's this is saying is that how do we clear the darkness in order to move into the new age? It's like this, how do we come into our abundance is we've got to face these darkest dark places, which is this program shame. So when we take that with this North Node finishing up in Sagittarius, the message is that we've got to completely reevaluate this and claim back our permission for our own abundance. So if you have been going through it, which I know and I feel you, and I'm so sorry it's been so hard, but maybe this trek through the darkest dark, this bloom, this memory of how hard it's been in this evolution is really, really important. Because have you ever had that? Let's just go back to that example of the narcissist relationship and the empath. And the empath kind of has this thing of like, oh, well, they're sick and they're hurting and they have a hole inside and I should have compassion for them and I should stick with them. And, and then all the time we're getting all this abuse and garbage, not realizing, that's happening. And sometimes it has to get so bad and we have to get so beaten down until we go, wait a minute. How dare you treat this precious spiritual light in that manner? Because it's hard to come to the point where and this is what's kind of going on in our world with cognitive dissonance of the masses. It's just like we just can't face how much we've been manipulated. And it's so hard to face how much we've been lied to. And so that's what happens in that narcissist relationship. You come to a point where you're so beaten down, you finally stand up for yourself. And that's where we're at. So if you're feeling beaten up right now there's this massive attack because that flip of energies is about to happen. But because we're in a spiritual war and you're on the front lines of the spiritual war, but there's also this art of war happening where we're just layers and layers of deception and confusion. And this is so traumatizing for the intuitive soul. So just kind of validate that. But the clarity that we need is around this one piece is that you never failed God. You were a full initiate, and we got to get out of those old timelines. And maybe we went down to the darkest depths, and you're feeling beaten down right now by this magnetic or psychological attack, because that's the only way your soul will be able to receive the massive revelation of the light that you are. Because that point in that relationship, when that empath says, "How dare you? I see now that you." So what empaths or what narcissists will do, especially the covert kind, they will mirror, they're empathic too on a certain level, but not from the heart, right? They don't have a heart and soul. They're like disconnected. They don't have their own juice. So they got to do everything to you, manipulate you so that they can continue to feed on you as a source, right? And so they will mirror you, and they will take your personality, your love, your empathy, and they'll show you that, and they'll love bomb you. And then for the supernova soul who's never felt lovable, just soaks it up and like, "Oh, this is so great. This fantasy relationship is what I've always wanted." And then it's like, "Oh, actually, what a nightmare." And so it's like all of this duplicity, and they project. And then when you try to, when their behavior starts to show and their mask starts to slip, and if you call it out, they will blame you, and it's always your fault. I mean, it's exactly what we've been doing as supernova souls through this whole evolution. And enough is enough, don't you think? Except for that, if you hadn't gone to that place in that relationship of being treated so horribly and abused and used and fed upon, and then realizing how powerful you are and that you had all the energy, you had all the love, you had everything, you have your connection to source. That's why you were targeted. And then standing up and saying, "All right, I see now. Now this is where we're at in this point in evolution." Supernova souls are here to lead the way in spiritual ascension, but how can we do that if we can't receive our own abundance? So what if this is all happening and playing out right now so that we get down to the depths enough to be able to fully receive, right? It's like, how much abuse do you need before you stand up and say, "I am a human with the God-given right to my own spiritual abundance, and now I'm finally going to let myself receive." And that's that shift in that narcissist relationship where you say, "This is how I will be treated." And I know we've had this, and it's been so painful for supernova souls because it's like everyone turned against you and turned into a narcissist. And then it's like, "Oh, what's even going on here?" And then you don't want to be alone completely, but everyone around you is playing these games because they all want what you have. And is it finally time to allow yourself to have that? Because we've got to be ready. When this flip happens, we're going into massive abundance, a golden age, a brand new financial system that supports that the light and the love of this world, and a redistribution of wealth. I mean, and programs that can finally be, humanitarian projects that can finally help the people so that we can, so that everybody is fed and clothed and cared for. I mean, this is what's coming. There's no way around it. And you're here to lead the way, and you got to be ready to take your rightful place. And yet you feel completely unlovable and unworthy of your own abundant love, right? So this is the revolution of wealth. And it's interesting how it correlates with this South Node Sag energy. And so we've just had Venus finishing up at the end degrees of Sagittarius. And so that was bringing this bloom because it is our feminine side that in all of us, we all have masculine and feminine. And the feminine side is our emotional side, our empathic side, our intuitive side. So it is the feminine part of ourselves that has been cast aside and beaten down. So we're picking her up, dusting her off, and putting her back on her throne. That's a big shift, though. So we're at this place where it's like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even know if I could make it through. And I've been so alone for so long. But now I see I went to the darkest depths of the darkness so that I could know that I deserve to receive. So, what if this is all so that you can receive everything you've been going through that's been so hard? And then can we just step over and be and live and exist and claim this light because it is flooding into our DNA to activate our DNA? Are you feeling it? This Christ consciousness, that Scorpio new moon is a big marker and a shift of the start of something. Of course, we don't really know, right? And this is like, could you be loved? Could you let yourself be the love that you are? And supernova souls with our karmic situations from past lives and people around us that we feel like supernova souls want to save their whole lineage. They want to save their whole bloodline. They want to save their whole family. They want to help everyone around them and have kept themselves in lower vibrational frequency because it's like, how could I leave them behind? And a lot of times that's subconscious because it's like, well, no, I don't want to do that, but still we do. And this is about full permission. The only way you can bring them with you is to first go yourself. And it is time. I've from the very beginning of these downloads about supernova souls, one of the things that came through was this massive shift that when the masses come into more truth about what's been going on in this evolution of the manipulation and control of humanity, and they have that experience, then it's like we've been holding that in our psyche. We've been holding the karma of the darkness, and we've been holding the energy of the collective in the pain of the collective. And when we lift that off, that's the shift. So as the masses are feeling more of their stuff that we've been holding for them, and as those that have done horrible wrongs are actually brought to justice, supernova souls are freed. But maybe we can be free right now by recognizing that it was never ours to carry, and there's no way your whole lineage isn't going to be healed. There's a connection between, we've heard about these like dark Illuminati bloodlines, 13 bloodlines. And those always go back to royal blood and those things. But this is also really common for supernova souls. It's like we came into those lineages because we want to clean up the whole lineage. I mean, maybe we feel responsible because supernova souls, we were there at the beginning of the vision of what Earth wanted to become. And as sensitive, aware souls, maybe it makes sense that we took on it like it's all our fault that this evolution went off the rails. But we're at this point where it's like, maybe it didn't go off. Maybe it's because we are doing it a completely different way. And it's going to be so amazing and glorious, this shift. And you're here on the cutting edge. And it's time to step into that glory and that light. And to know right here, right now, that this shame doesn't fit. And that you are the love, and it's time to receive this because you got to be ready for the next chapter. So huge energetic upgrades happening, huge cleansing of the darkness. This is our first big Scorpio energy of the year. So we are having a massive cleanse of past lifetime pictures coming up, cellular expressions of past life trauma, but also, so it's like that darkest dark, lightest light, divergent timelines that are getting further and further apart, causing pain for this aware soul. And yet, is that pain all about preparing you to receive? Like, okay, I've had enough now. And you know what happened to Yeshua? He went through the wilderness and he faced the darkness and he faced his fears and his doubt and he faced Satan head on. And then he went to go get crucified. Except for that was actually about him demonstrating the transfiguration into light body. So he did all of that in order to be free completely from the chains of physical form. You have already, supernova soul, experienced to some degree light body. You have a soul memory of this, and this is why you've been so targeted. Isn't it time to own this and step up and step strong It's not an ego thing. You know, supernova souls, a lot of things like, well, if I'm a supernova soul, that's saying I'm better than other people. And, you know, and this is the energy you'll get from people around you. You say, oh, I have this, I feel like there's something bigger I'm here to do. I have this spiritual purpose. And they're like, oh, you just think you're better than everybody else. Go get a job. Go just be a normal person, you know? And so everyone around you for lifetimes has negated and invalidated your spiritual path and purpose. Why? Oh, so they can keep you small, so they can feed on you. If you knew who you were, you wouldn't be available as food. And so we've got to just kind of, it's almost like this divergent timeline thing is as we go through the shift, it's about collapsing all these old timelines. And that's all those leftover personality constructs from past lives where you failed and, you know, you have to prove yourself and, you know, to come back to God's love and all that. And it's like, no, 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 no. Quantum physics has proven that we are fractals of God consciousness. And you were a full initiate when you came into this evolution. Isn't it time to own that shit? And that is the wealth revolution. And you are abundant. So whatever you're going through right now, know that this is the final preparation. And it's an absolutely crucial time. And do not forget that you have been chosen and you answered the call and you are here. And we are not even gotten started yet. Don't rob yourself of the magic and the beauty of this experience that we're having. So it's easy, though, to get pulled into those other timelines. But notice that has to do with your karmic feelings of responsibility to other souls. And then you can go, oh, wait, right, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is my work. This is my path and purpose, is actually to live and breathe and claim and proclaim my place in God's light and love as that living, breathing example. And that's how you bring everyone with you. So know that whatever you're going through right now is a preparation to receive on a massive level beyond what you can imagine. And so the only way to get there might have been to go to the darkest dark, to that place of that completely beaten down soul, to say like, wait a minute. How dare you treat this precious light this way? I now step fully into my abundance right here, right now. There's nothing else to wait for. We are the shift. And the astrology is perfect. So what's happening next week, the 10th, 11th, huge energy power surge here, because Mercury, after that retrograde, catching up to Mars. Mercury and Mars in exact conjunction in Scorpio, in square to Saturn in Aquarius at 7 degrees, the number of Christ consciousness. 7 is also a number of shifting change. It's kind of like, oh, you're over here and you're over here. And squares are this tension energy, like you can only go so far that way. It's the end of the road. And isn't this how we've been feeling in every direction in our life, right? Because there's only one way, and it's up the ladder of ascension. And what if the only thing keeping us from existing in this frequency vibration where none of that dark shit can touch you is whether or not we feel we deserve it, which is a bunch of crap. So this square to Saturn in Aquarius at 7 degrees is speaking about building in the new age. And it's saying Mercury and Mars together in Scorpio. This is this thing. It's like the chances of this astrology happening the way it is on the dates it happens, 11/11, 2021. It's just, you know, it's not a coincidence, right? You know, and the planets are speaking to us in very powerful ways. Mercury is our mind, our conceptual reality. Mars, our warrior. In Scorpio, it's going into the deepest recesses of the mind. This mind controller, and we're all been MK Ultra. I mean, mind control experiments started back in the 50s, maybe even before that, World War II. And you don't think that's being used on all of us? And supernova souls, those that are holding the light, particularly targeted. But this astrology is about breaking that mind control, you know, and breaking the spell of these delusions. And for supernova souls, it's that delusion of low self-worth and shame. And we got to break the chains of that. But maybe you went so deep, because this is the thing, supernovas, oh, I feel this shame and I'm not good enough and I have to do more and I have to prove myself. And then, oh no, I feel bad for feeling bad about myself. And then, it's like, oh my God. When you see the truth of what evil has been happening under our nose with our taxpayer dollars, you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, I'm an angel. And how about we just own that right now? And so this square, Mercury and Mars, it's just a power, because Mars is a ruler of Scorpio, and we're speaking about psychic power and power to undo the mind control. And the picture that's coming around that is that, how about we work with the conscious cells in our heart, right? We've got conscious cells in our brain. We've been programmed to think that's our consciousness, that's our intelligence, right? But we have intelligent cells in our heart. Maybe we can go work from that place to get through this time and walk in, put on that armor of God and walk in the light and the love, receiving that abundance. And that love that we are. So, but the power of this conjunction, not just coming together, but in an exact square to Saturn and Aquarius at 7 degrees. And this is saying, we can't go forward with these distortions, this mind control, the lies, the deception. We can't put a Band-Aid on that shit, right? We cannot build a new world on a rotten foundation. And we're at the end of the road. And that's the rest of 2021. And it is that flip into the Aquarian age. Now, very clear messages coming through that the Aquarian age is exactly the same thing as the golden age of abundance, the new Renaissance, and the return of Christ, the second coming of Christ consciousness. And in the Edgar Cayce readings, it came through that the second coming of Christ consciousness was an embodiment of the Christ body in a group of souls. And so, is that you, Supernova? So here we are. Don't miss a moment. Very crucial, very powerful times. Know that this Scorpio new moon, the reason why it's the start of whatever we're happening and the beginning of this next chapter, has to do because it's the beginning of eclipse season. Our first eclipse will be a lunar eclipse at 27 degrees Taurus, and that's kind of speaking to the nodes moving into Taurus and Scorpio for this next year and a half or so, starting in January. So lunar eclipse on the 19th, and that won't be too far out of a T-square with Jupiter in Aquarius. Now getting that forward motion. Jupiter will be at 24 degrees, exactly one sign over from Pluto in Capricorn. Venus is moving over into Capricorn today, having that empowerment of going over the galactic center, come into her destiny. But now she's going to go face the man, and she's going to tell him what she thinks, and she's going to stand up for her rights. And she's going to say, I've got light body, so your bullets don't work on me anymore. And so then we've got a solar eclipse on the 4th of December, and that's at 12 degrees, 22 minutes Sagittarius. So really, really powerful, speaking to the culmination of this whole year, maybe many years in the whole Piscean age of astrology that happens around the solstice in December. So more information about that as we get closer. But no, we've started into eclipse season. So things get really weird in eclipse season. Eclipse season is about something being hidden, things being hidden and revealed. It's also a timeline alignment because it's when the sun and the moon line up with the nodes of the moon. And so it's kind of like an adjustment, like, hey, get over here, and are you ready to receive that? Could you be loved? And so I look forward to staying connected with you, and look out for a Telegram live stream. I think I might do that tomorrow. So I'll get an email out about that. You can sign up for the email link, get on the Telegram channel. Those links are in the information box below. If you want to go catch that replay of the Scorpio new moon activation, quite powerful experience for us supernova souls. We are connected. And so let's stay together. Don't forget, we're all here going through the same thing together, and you're not alone. And so hang in there. So much love to you, supernova souls, and I look forward to seeing you soon on the next update. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.